So you're going to go out there, drink your drink, say goodnight. I've had a very lovely evening. Here's a look at the Starry's Pulp Fiction Vincent Vega 2.0 ponytail version. Starry's brings this version of Vincent Vega to life as a fully realized 6-scale figure with movie-accurate likeness to John Travolta with ponytail and various accessories from the film, such as mysterious briefcase, his overcoat, and his always-present cigarette. The deluxe version of the figure also includes a white couch and the reel-to-reel tape deck from Mia Wallace's living room. Looking forward to having a look at Vincent Vega 2.0. Then we'll go out for $5 milkshakes. Before we get a closer look at the figure, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the figure actually stands. So I'm going to take the tape measure right to the very top of his head, and we're going to stop it right around there. According to the readouts, Vincent Vega 2.0 with ponytail is 11.8 inches in height. Switching that to centimeters, revealing that the figure stands 30.1 centimeters tall. The figure includes a ton of cool scene-specific accessories, but before we get down to looking at those extensively, let's have a look at the display stand that comes included with Vincent. Now, if you have been collecting the Starry's pieces in the past, the shape of stand probably is rather familiar to you. The oval-shaped stand has made several appearances in the past, but perhaps not with Pulp Fiction printed across the top. Unfortunately, there is no placard, no name or a mention on the front telling us that this is Vincent's stand specifically. But again, I appreciate the fact they went the extra mile to actually print Pulp Fiction across the top. Other than that, it's your standard variety display stand, included with the crate along the top that the figure can fit on top of. You basically just put his legs in between that. Again, I like the fact that you do get yourself a display stand, even though there are other ways to display the figure, which we'll be looking at in a second. Yes, I suppose one other way that you can display the figure in your collection is with the included deluxe accessories that we'll have a look at right now. If you do get yourself the deluxe version of Vincent Vega, then you get all the accessories that we're going to be looking at shortly, along with these two pieces as well. On the left, you'll see taking up the larger amount of space here on the backdrop. He gets himself a couch. Well, not his specifically, Mia Wallace's couch that we see inside her house when Vincent goes to pick her up. The other thing that he comes included with, but from her house, is the reel-to-reel, which, as you can see right here, it's a good-sized piece. Now, when you see him in the movie walking into the room, this is located at the far corner of the wall, and it's actually on top of a bookshelf. Sadly, the bookshelf isn't included, which would have involved more additional plastic on Starry's part to include with the figure and probably would have increased the price of it. But I would have really appreciated that stand, that bookshelf, to also put this on display, because as it stands right now, you're basically just going to be putting it to the side of the figure. I suppose I could probably come up with some other solution to the problem. I mean, for the time being, though, I appreciate the fact that we get this. It doesn't have spinning wheels on the reels themselves. They don't actually rotate. But they have really done a great job of recreating this on a much smaller scale. You can even see that there's the time right there, 6:08. All the dials, all the switches, all the knobs, all carefully, meticulously sculpted and painted. They even have finished the back of it, too, something of which you probably wouldn't even see. As I said, the only thing that would have made this even that much cooler is if they had included that little small shelf, because, like I said, it's sort of sitting off in the background. Let's put that to the side. We'll also move Vincent to the side for the time being, because I also want to look at this. I want to show you guys this couch. I can't even believe the fact that a company would include a 6-scale version of the couch that we see in the film. Now, it's actually made of different pieces. The sides, the bottom, and the back are all separate pieces. They all attach by magnets. You also get a couple of pillows. I don't remember the couch actually having pillows in the movie. I could be incorrect by that. But the pillows seem to be all identical to one another. And they're real squishy, soft pillows. I appreciate the fact that they include those. But we'll put those to the side as well. And I want to show you how the couch basically assembles. It is a faux leather couch. I mean, and looking at it too, you would almost swear that that is real leather that they use. It's been seamed quite well, as seems to be the case really with all these Star Ace pieces. When we look at the tailoring for these costumes, is always the top notch. But to see what they've actually managed to pull off for a couch, and a full-sized couch, that I guess if you wanted to, you could put Vincent Vega, bend his legs, bend his knees, and you could technically have him sitting on the couch, though probably the plan not to have him displayed on the couch, I certainly would be looking to display the couch in the background. And again, depending on how you want to display the figure for yourself. So let's go ahead and straighten out those legs. We'll just put the figure here for the side, for the time being, of course. And I want to show you how this is assembled. So like this side piece basically attaches. The stronger magnets seem to be on the sides. You get basically like a 2-halved piece, kind of like a foam material. And then they would have stitched it inside like this faux leather material. But this folds over like that. And then from there, you take this back piece, and there is a magnet on it. The magnet isn't super strong until you take the back piece, attach it on like that, and then you take these side pieces, and again, it's all a soft, squishy foam, and those attach. And that really, because this sits on top of those arms, it really does hold everything in place. And the couch ends up being generally quite stable and strong, and not falling apart. But again, the idea that you get yourself a couch to come include with a 6-scale figure, ask yourself the last time, I could probably even answer that for you. We've never gotten ourselves a couch to come include with a figure. And again, even though this is something that you really only see in the background of Miss Wallace's house after all, the fact that they would even include that in the first place is quite incredible. So now looking at the rest of the accessories that come included with the figure, now keeping in mind again, all the things that we're going to be looking at now in this part of the review is all the things that are going to come with the basic release, along with the display stand that we looked at earlier. If you find yourself thinking, well, I'm probably never going to display the figure with Mia Wallace's couch or the reel-to-reel that was in her house, then by all means, you don't have to necessarily pick up the deluxe version. The deluxe version just gives you those other things as well. I'm going to tread cautiously, of course, picking up some of the smaller accessories, because some of these small things that come include with the figure, these small trinkets, could be easily lost. You'll see what I mean in a second. Starting first, he comes included with his box of cigarettes. So small, in fact, I hope that the camera's actually able to pick that up. There it is right there. It is a case where it's actually just plastic, and what they've done is they've put a label over top of it, like an adhesive sticker that's stuck all the way around it, and stuck along the top and bottom as well. You'll probably see that there's a hole sticking, well, right in the top of the box. What they've done, and this is really clever, is they've made and designed it in such a way that you can actually take one of the cigarettes, although it is awfully tight quarters, you can actually take one of the cigarettes and fit them inside there. As I said, it's super small. You have to line everything up accordingly, and as you can see, you can actually fit one of the cigarettes inside the box there. The label, unfortunately, is coming a little bit loose on the bottom. But again, the idea of getting a smaller thing like this to be carried in his hand, just love the fact that they would have included that. While we're also on the topic of smokes, he comes also with a couple of variations of lit smokes. Now, I'm going to be very, again, careful to pick these ones up because I know I'm going to drop them. Let's hope that's not the case. There are actually two versions of the cigarette. One is a little bit smaller than the other. As you can see, both of them have ashes on the end, so we know that they've been smoked. But again, the smallest of details, painted on the end, the filter, the little band there, and again, the red on the end, there is, like I said, two variations of it. See, this one is a little bit longer than this one. Right there. Very, very cool. So put that to the side. He also comes included with the needle. Now, the needle you have to be really careful of, because the back part actually comes right out of it. And if you're not careful, if you tilt it up this way, then yes, most definitely this is going to slide out and be lost somewhere on the floor. The measurements are noted actually even on there too. Again, going back to the point I made earlier, but even the smallest of details get afforded. As you can see right there, there's the little measurements marked onto the side of it. The only thing, of course, missing inside of it is the liquid, but again, the fact that they would even have a syringe included with the figure is really neat. Just again, be very careful you don't lose this part. Oh, and I just dropped it. Okay, I see where it is. I'm going to have to go reclaim that in a second. He also comes included with his lighter. In case you are curious, the lighter has some really nice brushing of silver added to it. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten where the end of that needle is. I'm looking at it right now. In case you're curious, the lighter does actually open up, showing what it looks like on the inside. To go along with the lighter, to go along with the cigarettes, he also comes included with his ashtray. And I like the way that the ashtray looks. It almost kind of, it looks like there's a little bit of ash left in the bottom of it. Mind you, it's not painted any bit of a different color than the rest of the ashtray, but at least they sculpted something in there to make it look like it's been used. I mean, it's a really battered up looking ash, at least on the inside of it. The outside doesn't look too bad at all. Got some nice silver on the outside of it, but the inside has some additional kind of charring. They've added a dry brushing of black to it. Boy, does that ever really stand out. He also comes included with his book, which we can have a look at right now. And that's what it looks like on the back. I mean, looking at it, it is obviously just plastic, and it looks like they've applied, similar to what they did with the cigarettes. It looks like they applied a sticker over top of it, although the sticker isn't fraying at all. I mean, looking at it, though, it looks like a real book, even right to the fact it's got age on the spine. Of course, on the back there as well. Makeshift pages. I mean, it looks like something you could open up. Obviously, you can't, though. Comes, of course, included with his briefcase. Don't worry, we will be looking at the inside of it. There's nothing actually on the inside, but it does give you a little bit of depth to work with that if you wanted to. I suppose you could put like the cigarettes in there. You could put the book in there if you wanted to. You really could technically store all the accessories that came included with the figure inside the briefcase, even though we don't really see the inside of the briefcase. You see the snaps on the outside there? Even like to the little security dials that you can roll the numbers to decide for yourself what combination you want to use to open up the briefcase is all sculpted in there as well. The smallest, again, of those details incorporated into this. He comes included with some swappable hands. Currently in the sockets of his forearms, he's just got himself a couple of gripping hands. He does come with a couple of hands suited for holding the cigarette, for example. A couple of variations of those. This one actually is really good because of the way they've sculpted it. It's perfect for holding the cigarette right in his fingers there. And then also, in addition to that, he's got a couple of dancing hands. Because, of course, that will be something that you can change this one into. All you're really going to be doing is removing the footwear and swapping out for the socks. But you can actually have him dancing down the twist. And you can include these hands as well. The last thing that we certainly saw, actually, that's not true. He also comes included with those socks. It's interesting, actually, what they did was instead of having the shoes be removable, because that just never really works, you end up having floppy footwear on the feet. Instead, what they actually did do instead was they gave you already established feet, already in the socks. And like the peg is already attached. So all you really have to do then is pop the footwear off, swap it out for the sock footwear, or lack thereof footwear, and you can have him actually dancing with Mia Wallace. The neat thing about it, though, is that they actually did sculpt in some decent-looking toes. You can see them right there. The material that they used also for the sock is decent as well. It looks like they did in the film. I mean, obviously, they were just black socks in the film. So he also comes included with that. And rounding out the last of the accessories, yes, I know I didn't forget about the end of that syringe. It also comes included with the jacket. The jacket does have working sleeves if you wanted to actually put them on him. Most people, I'm sure, certainly including myself, if you are looking to pick up this figure for yourself, probably may end up just displaying it with this draped over his arm, as the ever popular meme goes around with him, of course, looking around. I'm sure I've used that meme several hundreds of times. I'm sure other people have as well. And you can drape the jacket over his arm. The thing about the material, though, and almost even as a praise more so to Starrace, is that the tailoring, again, on the inside of it, as well as the material that they used, it sort of feels, I feel wrong in a way that I'm actually just end up using this as arm decoration. I'm going to drape over his arm. The other thing about it, though, is that the material that they used is pretty dense. I don't know if you can actually gauge that or not by watching this in the video. Got some nice sewn-in buttons there as well. Collar there, very nicely stitched. But again, like the material is dense enough, it does cause a little bit of problems when it comes to just draping it. Because the material is thicker, it doesn't seem to conform to the shape of his arm. So like if you take the figure, for example, and you sort of recreate how he looks when he's walking into Mia Wallace's house, You can kind of fold in the sleeves and just fold the jacket. I'm trying to remember which way he actually had it. I think he had it with the collar side out. And you can kind of have it draped over his arm. But you sort of see what I mean. Like, the material is almost too good of a quality of material to naturally drape on his arm. If it was a thinner material, and they really only designed the jacket not to wear necessarily, but to wear onto his sleeve, then yeah, they probably could have used a thinner material and have that just drape naturally over his arm. Probably until the time comes that Starz decides to release a Mia Wallace, and I really hope that they do. Follow the trend up with releasing already the Vincent Vega 2.0, but give us the Mia Wallace. Then definitely I'm probably not going to go the route of displaying him like this, with, of course, that meme look posed on display. And instead, I'm going to have Vincent Vega dancing it up with Miss Wallace instead. To pull off the dance look on Vincent Vega, what we will do is actually remove the feet. And you just want to pop it off the ball joint, wiggle it off. And through wiggling it off, you'll also have the sock left behind. You can go ahead and just pop that off. We'll do the exact same thing on the other side. Roll up the cuff of his pants, wiggle off his feet. And generally, when it comes to wiggling and popping the feet off, I like to twist it as I'm pulling it. I don't want to just yank it, but just twist it off. Remove that ball joint or that peg joint from the bottom of his leg. And then, of course, remove the sock as well. Then go back to, well, it doesn't really matter which way we started with, but go ahead and just take, now this is actually a little bit harder because you have to take the sock and you have to drape it around, get it around his pant leg first, or around his actual leg first. Just roll that up, just like that. If it helps at all, you can also use a pair of like tweezers and just kind of wiggle that way. And then once it's far enough up, once you feel like you've got it in a good enough place, just pop that foot in place like that. Super easy. I mean, really, again, like the hardest part is just trying to get the sock rolled up the bottom of the leg. That's it. And then do the exact same thing on the other side. Would you ever imagine that you'd be watching a review of somebody actually putting on socks on their figures? You're welcome. We're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing on this side. Just take the sock, roll it up the leg. And then when you feel like you've got it high enough on there, just then finish the job off by popping the foot in place. Just like that. And there you've got Vincent Vega with his sock feet. I mean, really, when you think about it, like what other route they would have gone to pull off that same look, short of actually just having removable shoes. And then, of course, that just never sits right. Those shoes would just wiggle around. This is, again, the smartest route they could have gone. And again, gives you that look that you'll want to get when you want to display Vincent Vega in his dancing. And I guess you could also finish up the rest of that by going ahead and removing his hands. And then we're going to go ahead and take the appropriate hands, at least. Pop those onto the pegs. There's one. And we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. Pop that off. And we'll replace it with the other dancing hand. Just kind of get it around the jacket end of it. Bend up the arms. Bend up the elbows. There you go. And you can have them sort of dancing. You probably could pull it off a little bit better than what I just did, but it's only simply to show you how those hands plug into place. With that being said, let's get a finally, I know we spent a whole lot of time talking about the accessories, talking about the ways I'd like to display the figure. You certainly would like to see how the figure actually looks in hand. And I'm really happy with how this one turned out. This would be now the second Vincent Vega, marked, of course, obviously by the fact it's got 2.0. This is the one that does have the ponytail. Unfortunately, I don't know where I put my original Vincent. I had it on display for a while, and then I probably just put it into storage. But for me, I've always really wanted the Vincent Vega that had the ponytail. Specifically, my intended plan was to eventually get a Mia Wallace displayed along with her. And I'm sure with them already thinking ahead, they probably already have planned a Mia Wallace that we're going to be getting down the road. But this is certainly Vincent Vega, capturing quite a good likeness, if you ask me, of John Travolta. He does have the one earring, which you probably may or may not be able to see, draped by the fact that he's got the hair over top of it. It does have like the little imperfections to the skin that you would expect to find on a regular human face. And that's one of the things I also really like about Starz pieces, the fact that when it comes to their paint work, they do add those little imperfections. Those are all the things that add the realism to these figures. And I think, again, like that's a pretty good likeness to John Travolta. You can kind of also see where the separate piece of hair was attached to the rest of the head by this being a separate piece right here. So there's a little angled kind of a lightning bolt shape right there where you can see like this piece has been attached to the hair. But generally, like if you're looking at from a distance, you're probably not going to be seeing that until I probably just pointed that out. I mean, again, when you're looking at it from the side, when you're looking at it from really all sides, there's not a part of it that I don't think resembles John Travolta. The hair is done also quite well. Here, he's actually got himself the ponytail. The original Vincent Vega that we had looked at before, feel free to check out that review if you'd like. The other one didn't have the little ponytail, and this one does have it sculpted on the back. As for the rest of his outfit, he's got himself a white shirt with tie on the top there. Again, nice buttons all done to this. I don't suspect that these were all sewn in place. They probably were attached, maybe by a glue, for example, so you will want to be careful against that. But nice seam work done to the front of the jacket, or the front of the shirt, and of course you've got the jacket over top of it. I really think they did a great job on the jacket. Not only the choice of material that they went with, but the fact that they would go in and do all the little small details, like the buttons all individually sewn in there. The fact that you do have functioning pockets that you could, if you wanted to, fit, I'm sure, maybe the smokes in there if you wanted to. A couple of little pockets there. One pocket actually on the top there. But like even on the inside of the jacket, it's overall all finished. Sometimes when you look at the inside of a 6-scale figure jacket, you sort of see where the seam has just been left, like where the two strips of fabric have been sewn together. You usually have all this little frayed threading. Not the case at all when you look at a jacket like this. It's really nicely done. You've got the belt looped in like a normal belt would be looped on a larger person. It does have the indication of a fly, but it looks like it's actually Velcroed in place. He does have a couple of functioning, again, pockets on the side. Like, functioning pockets are things that really don't necessarily need to be added to a 6-scale figure. Yes, it adds to realism, but if you're not planning on using them, they don't really need to be there. And yet, Star Ace actually takes the time to sew those in there, or make them functionally at least. And we get a little bit further down. We already sort of started down here, and not really started at the top of the figure. But again, there's the sculpting of his feet. You can see. Even underneath the sock, you can clearly indicate, you can see all the little piggies there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on both sides there as well. For the articulation here on Vincent Vega, his head rotates all the way around. It hinges down, it hinges up, and it also rocks back and forth. There seems to be, as I'm moving this about, not only a ball joint working for the head, but then there's also a secondary ball joint working at the base of the neck. In fact, actually, if I grab the neck, you can sort of see how that neck seems to be a separate, even rotating it back and forth this way. That neck is a separate piece. And I always appreciate when you have companies that do 2 ball joints, one at the top, one at the bottom, because it gives you a little bit more mileage with what you can actually do with the heads. As for the arms hinge out. They're not really restricted at all to the material. The material is thin enough that it doesn't fight against those joints. So you can bring the arms out perfectly fine, move them forward and back, fine and good, rotate the bicep. 2 bends at the elbow. There's one, and there's the second one right there. He does also have the rotation in the hands. Sometimes, though, moving the hands about, if you don't properly peg them into place like I just did, the hands are prone to popping off. Boy, I just said a whole lot of P's there all of a sudden. But again, you just swivel those hands all the way around on those peg joints, and just again, make sure you pop them back securely so they aren't going to fall off on you. He has an upper torso ball joint. I'm trying to be careful doing that because I don't want to have the shirt untuck. I find it's always difficult to try to tuck a shirt back in to the pants. I can't even do that now as an adult with a 1-to-1 body. The idea of actually doing that on a smaller figure is a little bit more difficult. You can always sort of take like something flat, like a popsicle stick or something, you can actually tuck that in there, or use like a screwdriver. Just make sure it's not sharp because you don't want to puncture the material. But the upper torso ball joint, you got the legs that split out. They go forward, they go back. They do have a little bit of a kind of a ratcheted joint, it almost seems, when I'm moving the legs back and forth this way. They swivel at the top of the thigh. He has a double hinge on the knee. And then, of course, he has the articulation in the feet. You know, the one thing I also wanted to mention about Vincent Vega here, and, I have been reviewing a lot of the Star Ace pieces in the past. I have noticed out of all the figures I've looked at, Vincent Vega seems to have one of the more tighter sets of joints across his body. Not only were his elbows super tight, his legs and his knees were also tight as well. And I like that. There's nothing more disheartening than when you take a figure and you get it out of the box. You haven't done anything at all to it, and it already has loose joints, and it should never be the case at all. In this case, I don't have that issue at all when it comes to Vincent Vega. Of course, when it comes to displaying him, you can either display him with the jacket, entering into, of course, Mia Wallace's house, or eventually, let's hope, fingers crossed, we do eventually get ourselves a Mia Wallace 6-scale figure, because they have already done a bride. I hope that they will also be able to give us a Mia Wallace, because I would like to display the two of them in the dance-off, and of course then would justify why he's currently just wearing no footwear. Quentin Tarantino has a knack for picking the right song for the right movie. A lot of times, he'll take a song that was obscure before. Once he puts it into a movie, people instantly recognize it, and a lot of times they recognize it then for being in a Tarantino movie. I wouldn't necessarily say C'est la Vie by Chuck Berry is an obscure song. After all, it came out years before Pulp Fiction did, but I definitely think it was made famous by putting it into the dance scene number between Vincent Vega and Mia Wallace. In fact, every time I hear that song on the radio, I'm instantly thinking Pulp Fiction. And that seems to be the effect that Tarantino has on all the songs that he chooses. They almost become more popular after appearing in one of his movies. Now, of course, when it comes to dancing, Vincent Vega sadly is dancing by himself. Because, unfortunately, up to this point, we don't have ourselves a Mia Wallace for him to be dancing along with. I mean, in the past, we've gotten ourselves a Star's bride. So they have done an Uma Thurman in the past. I'm hoping they're going to repeat history and give us another Uma Thurman release, this time as Mia Wallace. In the time being, though, I'm probably not going to display Vincent Vega currently doing what he's doing right now, dancing off, because, yeah, it kind of seems strange that he's doing it without a dance partner. Instead, I'm going to revert him back to the way he appeared at the beginning of this review, made famous by a meme. Somewhat ironic that Vincent Vega is attached to a popular song, C'est la Vie, and he's also attached to an even more popular meme that sometimes people use and don't even know what movie it came from. Ah, the power of a meme. I'm going to probably display him with the trench coat over his arm, smoke in hand, and just overall confused why he's standing in the middle of Mia Wallace's living room, I suppose it was. Speaking of living room, the deluxe release of Vincent Vega, as you saw in this review, does come included with a pretty snazzy looking couch. It does look like it's faux leather, and it does come with the reel-to-reel player, although, unfortunately, it doesn't come with the book stand, so there's really no way of displaying it. I guess you could really just display it next to the couch, or if you get yourself a small enough little table, display it on there. But if you do for yourself decide you don't want to get the deluxe release, of course, it does come with all the other accessories that we saw in this review. The only thing that's exclusive to the deluxe is the couch and the reel-to-reel player. He gets everything else, and he gets a whole lot of accessories to go with as well. Some of the things are small and losable if you're not careful. Just in case you are curious, I did retrieve the other end of that syringe, so it wasn't lost. But it has the possibility of being lost. You saw easily it was almost lost in this review. So if you are picking this figure up for yourself, be careful. Those smaller accessories. In the category of very losable, those would fall very high on that list. A big thank you to the folks over at Star's that provide the sample of the Pulp Fiction Vincent Vega 2.0 ponytail version, deluxe version. Gonna be a lot to have to put into the title, but loved this figure. I'm hoping we're gonna get ourselves a Mia Wallace as well. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. What do you guys think of this figure? Let me know down below in the comments section. And also if you've watched Pulp Fiction. Maybe for your video question for today is, what's your favorite song that has appeared in a Pulp Fiction movie? Always like reading your comments down below. Be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Be sure to turn on the bell notification. And be sure to come back to this channel Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as that's when we're having a look at new videos. We are also going to be looking at some more Star's releases. So keep your peepers ever peeled. C'est la vie. There's lots more videos coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.